Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya. Happy to celebrate Sri Bhagavan's Advent Day with all of you. This is Madhi Ratnasamy from Tampa Satsang group. First, we have Rosa Maldonado offering her reading. Second, Sadhuvam Swamigal's Maname Irangi Varuvai song offering by Madhi Ratnasamy. Third, Geeta Shiva reading from Gems of Bhagavan about renunciation. That will conclude Tampa's humble offering for this celebration. Thank you. Namo Ramana.
Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya. This is Rosa from Tampa, and today I'm going to read some excerpts from Bhagavan Ramana, the friend of all creation, which is an offering by the devotees of Bhagavan at his lotus feet. This is from chapter 1. Bhagavan Sri Ramana Maharshi was born in Tiruchuri on 30th of December 1879 at 1 a.m. on the auspicious day of Ardra Darshanam. He was the second son of Sriman Sundaram Ayar, a local pleader, and his devout wife Srimati Alagaman. The child was named Venkataraman. He received his early education in Tiruchuri and later in Dindigal. The first noteworthy event in his early life occurred in November 1895. One morning, on his way to school, he met a relative and asked him where he was coming from. The relative replied, "From Arunachala." This reply had a magical effect on Venkataraman. He had heard the name before, but on this occasion it thrilled him to the core. The second noteworthy event was when he came across a copy of the Periya Puranam containing the life stories of the 63 Nayanmars, the Tamil Saivite saints. Young Venkataraman was overwhelmed with bliss as he read the life of these devout Nayanmars, who live only to praise and serve Shiva and look upon themselves as mere specks of dust at the feet of the Lord. Despite these two incidents, Venkataraman was leading a normal life until the middle of July 1896. At that time, he underwent a sudden transformation. One day, he was sitting alone in the first floor room of his uncle's house in Madurai. All of a sudden, he was seized with a fright that he would die. He thought that he was going to die, though he was in usual robust health. He did not care to consult anyone, and he decided then and there to solve the problem himself. To quote his own words, "The shock made me at once introspective. I said to myself mentally, 'Now death has come. What does it mean? What is it that is dying? This body dies.' I at once dramatized the scene of death. I extended my limbs and held them rigid as though rigor mortis had set in. 'Well, then,' I said to me, 'this body is dead. It will be carried to the burial ground and reduced to ashes. But with the death of the body, am I dead? Is this body I? This body is silent and inert, but I feel the full force of my personality and even the sound of I within myself, apart from the body. So I am the deathless spirit, a thing transcending the body.' All this was not a mere intellectual process. It flashed before me vividly as the living truth." Venkataraman considered this as a call from his father, Arunachala, to go to him. He scanned the atlas, noted the railway route, and surmising that 3 rupees would be enough, he left the balance 2 rupees with a letter that would be easily noticed and left for the railway station. The letter read as below: "In search of my father, and I have, in obedience to his command, started from here. This is only embarking on a virtuous enterprise. Therefore, none need to grieve over this affair. To trace this out, no money need be spent." Thus, it is interesting to note that the letter begins with the personal pronoun I, but soon passes on to the impersonal pronoun this, and finally the letter is left unsigned. On September 1st, 1896, 3 days after leaving Madurai, Venkataraman boarded the train in the early hours of the morning and reached Tiruvannamalai, his father's abode, before noon. With quick steps and pounding heart, Venkataraman went straight to the Arunachala temple, as if the father was welcoming his son. All the gates and doors of the temple were open. Not a soul was present. Without any hindrance, he entered the innermost shrine, and in the bliss of union between father and son, the quest was achieved and the journey ended. Venkataraman then took up residence in the 1,000-pillared Bantapan in the Arunachaleshwara temple. The intensity of the young Swami's apparent tapas earned him the respect of the local sadhus, who began to look after his needs. The Swami stayed for 3 months in several places in the temple. In 1900, Ramana Swami moved to Virupaksha cave, located on the eastern slope of Arunachala. Here in 1907, the famous Sanskrit scholar Kavyakanta Ganapati Muni climbed the hill in the hot sun and fell flat on his face before the Swami, who was sitting alone on the veranda of the cave. The Muni clasped both the feet of Swami in his hands, and quivering with emotion, he cried, "All that has to be read, I have read. Even Vedanta Sastra I have fully understood. I have performed japa to my heart's content. Yet still up to this time I have not understood what tapas is. Hence I have sought refuge at thy feet. Pray enlighten me about the nature of tapas." The young Brahmana Swami gazed at the Muni for some time and broke his silence by saying, "If one watches whence the notion I arises, the mind is absorbed into that. That is tapas. When a mantra is repeated, if one watches the source from which the mantra sound is produced, the mind is absorbed in that. That is tapas." The answer not only satisfied the Muni, but also filled him with joy. He declared henceforth that the young Brahmana Swami, who had been named Venkataraman by his elders, should be known as Bhagavan Sri Ramana Maharshi. The devotees started addressing the young Swami as Bhagavan, which means the divine, or simply God. Bhagavan taught vichara, self-inquiry. He asked people to inquire into the source from which the notion of I arises. He said, "Self-inquiry is the one infallible means, the only direct one, to realize the unconditioned, absolute being that you really are." Bhagavan Sri Ramana Maharshi is ever present as our inner Guru. He is eternally residing as the timeless, spaceless inner Atma in the hearts of his devotees. Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya.
திரு சாதுவோம் சுவாமிகள் அருளிய மனமே இறங்கி வருவாய். மனமே இறங்கி வருவாய் ரமணேஷன் என் கண்மணியே, மனமே இறங்கி வருவாய் ரமணேஷன் என் கண்மணியே, மனமே இறங்கி வருவாய். இனி நீ அல்லாமல் எவரே என்னையாதரிப்பார் இறைவா, இனி நீ அல்லாமல் எவரே என்னையாதரிப்பார் இறைவா. தனியே இருத்தல் சரியோ தவராஜனான ரமணா, தனியே இருத்தல் சரியோ தவராஜனான ரமணா. மனமே இறங்கி வருவாய் ரமணேஷன் என் கண்மணியே, மனமே இறங்கி வருவாய். பிரியாத உண்மை உறவே பிழை நீ திருத்தல் பெரிதோ, பிரியாத உண்மை உறவே பிழை நீ திருத்தல் பெரிதோ. தரியே நகன்று ரமணா தயை நீ அளித்தல் தவறோ, தரியே நகன்று ரமணா தயை நீ அளித்தல் தவறோ. அருணாச்சலத்தின் அரசே அடியார் உழத்தினமுதே, திருநாள் எதில் வந்தருள்வாய் சிவஞான தேவ ரமணா. பல நாள் வருந்தி அழவே பகவான் என கை துழவே, பல நாள் வருந்தி அழவே பகவான் என கை துழவே. மலநோயகற்றி ரமணா வரமே அழிக்க மலவோம், மலநோயகற்றி ரமணா வரமே அழிக்க மலைவோம். மனமே இறங்கி வருவாய் ரமணேஷன் என் கண்மணியே, மனமே இறங்கி வருவாய். இனி இந்த ஜன்மம் வேணோ இறைவா வராததேனோ, இனி இந்த ஜன்மம் வீணோ இறைவா வராததேனோ. பனி கண்டயந்த பகலோன் பயமுண்டொழிந்த பரிசோ, மனமே இறங்கி வருவாய் ரமணேஷன் என் கண்மணியே, மனமே இறங்கி வருவாய், மனமே இறங்கி வருவாய்.
Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya. Readings from Gems of Bhagavan on Renunciation. When asked, how does a grihastha, householder, fare in the scheme of moksha, liberation, Bhagavan said, why do you think you are a grihastha? If you go out as a sannyasi or ascetic, a similar thought that you are a sannyasi will haunt you. Whether you continue in household or renounce it and go to the forest, your mind goes with you. The ego is the source of all thought. It creates the body and the world and makes you think you are a grihastha. If you renounce the world, it will only substitute the thought sannyasi for grihastha and the environments of the forest for those of the household. But the mental obstacle will still be there. They even increase in the new surroundings. There is no help in a change of environment. The obstacle is the mind. It must be got over, whether at home or in the forest. If you can do it in the forest, why not at home? Therefore, why change your environment? Your efforts can be made even now in whatever environment you are now. The environment will never change according to your desire. If objects have an independent existence, that is, if they exist anywhere apart from you, then it may be possible for you to go away from them. But they do not exist apart from you. They owe their existence to you, your thoughts. So where can you go to escape them? Where can you go fleeing from the world of objects? They are like the shadow of man, which the man cannot flee from. There is a funny story of a man who wanted to bury his shadow. He dug a deep pit and seeing a shadow at the bottom, was glad he could bury it so deep. He went on filling the pit, and when he had completely filled it up, he was surprised and disappointed to find the shadow on the top. Even so, the objects or thoughts of them will be always with you until you realize the self. Why should your occupation or duties in life interfere with your spiritual effort? For instance, there is a difference between your activities at home and in the office. In your office, activities are detached, and so long as you do your duty, you do not care what happens or whether it results in gain or loss to the employer. But your duties at home are performed with attachment, and you are all the time anxious as to whether they will bring advantage or disadvantage to you and your family. It is possible to perform all the activities of life with detachment and regard only the self as real. It is wrong to suppose that if one is fixed in the self, one's duties in life will not be performed properly. It is like an actor. He dresses, acts, and even feels the part he is playing. But he knows it is really not that character but someone else in real life. In the same way, why should the body consciousness or the feeling, I am the body, disturb you once you know for certain that you are not the body but the self? Nothing that the body does should shake you from abidance in the self. Such abidance will never interfere with the proper and effective discharge of whatever duties the body has, any more than the actor's being aware of his real status in life interferes with his acting a part on the stage. Renunciation is always in the mind, not in going to the forest or solitary places or giving up one's duties. The main thing is to see that the mind does not turn outward but inward. It does not really rest with a man whether he goes to this place or that, or whether he gives up his duties or not. All that happens according to destiny. All the activities that the body is to go through are determined when it first comes into existence. It does not rest with you to accept or reject them. The only freedom you have is to turn your mind inward and renounce activities there. Nobody can say why that freedom alone and no other freedom is left to man. That is the divine scheme. Giving up activities means giving up attachment to activities or the fruits thereof and giving up the notion, I am the doer. The activities which this body is destined to perform will have to be gone through. There is no question of giving up such activities whether one likes it or not. If one remains fixed in the self, the activities will still go on and their success will not be affected. One should not have the idea that one is the doer. The activities will still go on. That force, by whatever name you call it, which brought the body into existence, will see to it that the activities which this body is meant to go through or brought about. If the passions are something external to us, we can take arms and ammunition and conquer them. They all come from within us. If by looking into the source whence they come, we prevent their coming up, and we shall conquer them. It is the world and the objects in it that arouse our passions. But the world and these objects are created only by our mind. They do not exist during our sleep. The fact is that any amount of action can be performed, and performed quite well by the jnani, without his identifying himself with it in any way, or ever imagining that he is the doer. Some power acts through his body and uses his body to get the work done. Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya.